Drew and Eric.
Day.
How are you?
The door, but due to minor issues.
That last spot on the podium.
He's up at the inside.
Didn't bring out race paint. This one. Third spot. 5. Probably more.
Welcome to Dialed In TV. My name is the RC Guru. Right now, to the Sweeps 2012. I'm the RC Guru, and I'm here with Mr. Brian, who is the top qualifier. Welcome to Flag Chasers, the pre-race day show here on Dialed In RC. D-I-A-L-E-D in RC.
We got Jimmy rolling, Mike rolling.
Welcome to Dialed In RC. I'm your host, the RC Guru. Today we've got something really nice for you. We're going to do a little bit of body prepping. We're going to show you how to paint a Lexan body. This is how your body kit comes. It comes with decals in a plastic clear bag, and it comes totally translucent. Welcome to Dialed In RC. I'm your host, the RC Guru for Comcast TV. Today we are here at the Pete Johnson Memorial RC race here in Blue Diamond RC Raceway, where in the background you can hear the guys are practicing, getting their vehicles warmed up. Today I'm here with Pete's lovely wife, Karen. How are you, Karen? All right. How long have you guys been doing this memorial race for Pete?
This is number 4.
Number 4?
First run was in 2009.
Has it grown in popularity since then?
I guess you'll have to ask one of the guys, but yes, it seems the same guys always come out. Pete was highly respected and loved. The guys sometimes come to this race.
Okay. And these fine gentlemen you have over here, this must be the family here.
We're good friends with Pete. We've known Pete for some time, and yeah, he was always like another father figure to us. You know, Pete and us, we always had along real well, and just we clicked ever since we first met each other. And Pete was the type of guy that would have done anything for you. If you needed a shirt off your back, he would be there. You know, hearing the guys and everything, you know, he would always be there helping the guys out with their cars, making it special. And anytime he would say, here, go race my car, go play with it, you know? It's just the type of guy he was.
Yeah, I remember one time I had an encounter with Pete. I had on some and one speakers, right? And so Pete looks over to me and he said, hey, Mike, what are you doing over there with those Andy ones on? And it became Andy one, and everybody just bust out laughing, and that was the kind of humor that he had. He would always pick on me as, you know, with fun and everything like that, because I guess, you know what the old adage is, if somebody picks on you, that means they like you.
Yeah,
so
right.
I think that Pete and I, we had a great rapport with that. Manny Fresh here. I met Pete through Manny Fresh. And, he was part and parcel, the inspiration for the memorial race when it came up with the idea. I remember if you had something wrong with your vehicle and Pete had a part or a motor, he would just offer it to you because he was more concerned about racing against the competition and actually having real true competition as opposed to just like some racers who like to just whoop the competition all the time. He always loved a great, battle on the racetrack. That's one of the most important things that I remembered about him, his competitive nature. How are you guys doing, sometime after? How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm doing very well. People live on in the hearts of everybody here because this is what he did every summer. Steve used to come over to the house and before he could even go into the little garage, he always had to check his car to see if it was clean or dirty. And if it was dirty, he wasn't allowed to step foot into the garage until it was immaculate. He was always, "You're not bringing that dirty thing into my garage." And his garage, everything was laid out and everything had its place. Everything was clean and it was neat. And if he walked in that garage today, he would be so mad at me. But yeah, he was a neatnik and he was methodical about everything. But that's because he went to school at the Valley Forge Military Academy. So everything in his life was structured. And I think that if you were to talk to some of the guys and he was kind of demanding, that's the reason why, because that's the way he was raised. And he was just an awesome, wonderful man. For the people that he loved so much, he loved all the guys.
And that's another thing because I'm an ex-military personnel myself, so he must have saw, that discipline. He said, I can lean on this guy. He's not going to crack. He's just going to, he knows what it's all about. It's all about fun. It's all about enjoyment. I really miss Pete. We had some great conversations. We always talked tech. I would always go over to him and talk tech. And talking about that garage, the immaculate garage, that's almost like a NASCAR crew chief right there. I don't think I equate his garage with like a NASCAR garage, which is a great thing.
I used to drag race RC cars. When he had his heart attack, he decided to give up the drag racing. His two grandsons brought a little RC car to work and ran it around J-Tech. He says, "Give me that." And took a hold of the control. The rest is history.
Wow.
That's how he got started in RC cars.
Wow.
So he went from the big one to the small one.
Right. And a lot of stuff is translated over into that.
He used to rebuild engines for the drag race cars for Stars, California.
Wow.
He had his own business. It was called Good to Go.
Okay.
And people came from all over the United States for Pete to rebuild. Because he was meticulous. Everything had to be perfect.
I had a jet pilot buddy who was a friend of mine, and he was meticulous as well. This guy would fly 747s all across the nation, and one day I met him over in, I think it was Nazareth, Pennsylvania, and we were going to do some SCCA racing, the Sports Car Club of America racing. And this guy reminds me of Pete because he came to the racetrack one day with, in his trunk of his car, he had just come from a graveyard and he had bought a motor. And he couldn't transport the motor, he didn't have a forklift or anything in the graveyard, so he disassembled the entire motor and laid it out on cloth in the back of a rental car. And he says, now I'm going to make it down the road. And I thought that was very, very, ingenuitive with his mind, being able to say, I got to get this home. If I ship it, it's going to cost more to ship it than it would cost for me to rent a car and drive the cars down. So he disassembled the entire engine, opened up the trunk. Here's a crank, here's the pistons, Here's the heads, block, ball pan, everything in the trunk of a car, and it was all laid out nice and clean on white top. Sounds
That's the way
like
Pete was. He used to lay his engines apart. I used to say, how do you know what goes where, and how is that you never have any extra pieces left over? But he always put it back together. He knew exactly what went where. So.
Well, it's been great meeting you guys, and I hope you enjoy the remainder of the day. And I hope that it is an eventful day for you guys,
It always is.
filled with joy and remembrance of Pete.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Welcome, I am the RC Guru for Dialed In TV. Today we are at the Pete Johnson Memorial Race. In the background you see the guys warming up their vehicles. We're going to have a great race for you today. The weather is wonderful, a great day for racing weather-wise. It is 76 degrees and a overcast day. We're hoping for the sun to peek through the clouds at some point today. And also, we're going to have John Stitt, our in-car camera pro race driver, with some of the in-car camera views. Take a look at what the layout is like here. Go with us now as we take a fast lap around Blue Diamond. As you can see, the track is very, very bumpy, and so the drivers will have to really tune their shock package today. The shock oil as well as the springs combined create the road adhesion that will be necessary, as you saw in that corner right there leading to the front straightaway. One of the cars rolled. That's what's called traction roll. A lot of times, if your suspension is not properly set up and your roll center is not dialed properly for the race surface conditions, you will have that effect. Nevertheless, the driver of our in-car camera appears to have his car set up to take the bumps pretty much. We don't hear the chassis slapping the surface of the racetrack. In other words, the car is not bottoming out. The car is cornering well. And the straightaway speeds are in excess of 70 plus miles an hour today. So we've got great adhesion and traction on the surface of today. Hopefully it will maintain, but in some cases you never know what you're going to get with the weather. For if the sun happens to peek through the clouds, it may pose a difficult dilemma or problem for some of the current drivers' setup. We see the cars are traveling at extreme speeds. You have to hit that apex just right in order to get around with a fast lap time today. So stay tuned. You're watching Dialed In RC, a Dialed In TV program. I'm the RC Guru.
16-7, 17-15.
Welcome back once again. We're getting ready to start the A main of 1/10 scale nitro, and they're off. And as they go through the infield and turn number 3 and 4, we see a car flipping down as it enters into the straightaway. The marshals are there, very adept to the professionalism of getting the car put back on all 4 wheels as soon as possible so that the driver can continue and hopefully catch up the lost time from that accident. As we go through the infield here, we see that the cars are all lined up and everyone seems to be on top of their game today. The speeds and the handling. It takes meticulous eye and hand coordination to be able to drive a vehicle that is traveling more than 70 miles an hour and you are not inside of the vehicle. So you can't really actually feel what the vehicle is doing, but your eye and hand coordination plays a very, very vital part to handling of these vehicles. As we can see, the marshals are displayed out. The sun has finally peeked through the clouds, and this has posed a unpredicted challenge for some of the drivers, yet and still this is a half an hour event. That means that it will be necessary for the drivers to come into the pit area and the pit lane and refuel at least 5 times during that half an hour. Now, each driver's pit strategy is determined by the driver and the pit man who refuels the vehicle. These vehicles run off of nitromethane fuel with a combination mixture of castor oil. So for most part, drivers are running 20 to 30% nitromethane with a 80 or 70% castor oil mixture. Hopefully they will have tires that will be able to last the entire stint of the race, but if some drivers did not calculate the tire wear into the equation for their race strategy, then you'll see later on in the race many of the vehicles will become rear end loose. And what that means is that it's identifying that the tire wear has gone down so low and the tire degradation has taken place, and it becomes a major toll in the outcome of the race. And those who were in the front of the pack leading the race early may find themselves in the back of the pack, or at a worst case scenario, even being lapped. But everybody appears to be doing well. The vehicles are going through the course well. We hope that you are enjoying it. We've got some great racers here today, such as Irving Coles, who is a 2-time champion in the Skyrocket Invitational races that are held here during the race outdoor season. And we've also got Scooby Horton, who is here trying to defend his title. So Irving Cofield is trying to go for a 2-peat, and we will be interviewing him. We interviewed him earlier today as the pre-race show Flag Chasers was recorded, and next week we'll be showing that interview, and hopefully at the end of the race completion today, Mr. Cofield will have a second year in succession reigning in the class in which he has entered in. He has TQ'd in that class, which is the electric. We'll also be viewing the electric car race and results, and the final top 3 finishers interview will be viewed on next week's show. So stay tuned. You're watching Dialed In RC, which is a Dialed In TV Productions. Although we discuss the tire degradation and fuel compounds, one other thing that we must be mindful of when racing these sort of nitro radio controlled cars is the temperature of the motors. These motors generate RPM ranges in excess of 100,000 revolutions. So when you think of the number of cycles that these motors will be going through, in a grueling half-hour race, 70-mile-an-hour straightaways, tight corners, road adhesion, vehicles almost traction rolling, tire degradation, wear and tear. You must also think about the heat index of the motors. And what many of the race car drivers and their pit crew have is they have infrared temperature gauges that allow them to monitor and regulate, and in some cases, if it's too hot, then what they will do is they will use the carburetor valving needles to sort of control the amount of fuel that mixes in the cylinder chamber with the air mixture and try to get to a happy medium where they don't overheat the motors. And what happens is these motors are not water cooled and they're not oil cooled. It's the oil mixture in the fuel that allows them to maintain lubrication, which in turn keeps the temperature down. Friction without lubrication will allow temperatures to rise and rise until the point where the metal contact points of the two different moving parts will get so hot that they fuse together and the motor seizes up. A normal temperature for a nitromethane car under race conditions or just being able to drive the motor at peak performance is usually somewhere between 220 and 200 and maybe 65 degrees. In most cases, you can run a motor up to 280, but you are putting a lot of wear and tear on that motor. So a lot of the drivers and their pit crews will be concerned with temperature of motors and motor temperature throughout the day, especially since while the sun is hidden behind the clouds, the temperature is some 15 degrees cooler and close to some 30 degrees cooler on the racing surface. So if for some reason, like we see here, the sun has come out halfway of the straightaway, one half of the track is in the sun and the other half of the straightaway is in the shade, that will pose a dilemma for both engine temperatures as well as tire temperatures on the surface of the racetrack. So we're going to see who during the pit, if you see one of the pit crew members pick up the car, have a bottle of fuel in his hand to refuel the car, and then all of a sudden he sits the bottle down and he still has the car in his hand, he's probably reaching for a tuning screwdriver to either lean out the motor for more horsepower and RPM range, or detune the motor, which is richen the motor up. Thank you for tuning in. Check us out tonight on Wednesdays at 9 p.m. on DialedInTV.com. Welcome to Slipstream, the post-race show here on Dialed In RC, where we have the three top finishers in the 1/8 scale nitro car. Number one. It's been a good while since I've seen your face here at that number one spot. You pulled it off today. Can you tell us how it feels being number one?
Oh, it feels good being back on top, but you can't be on top without your friends and people that help you out in being on top. One of the major examples is Earl Cole here. He wouldn't be able to race if it hadn't been for some of his strengths in maintaining this track. So you can't have a good time and you can't enjoy first place without your friends.
That's right. I know. In the latter stages of the race, you came up with taking over the first place. Did you feel that your car was in position to win the day, or were you just waiting for a moment to pounce?
Well, actually, in the race that started, I was trying to pace myself, let the race come to me. And of course, in all races, there's incidents that happen. So I took on a little incident, did a little damage to the car, but I was able to maintain it and drive it the way it was given to me.
Okay, I'll come back to you, number one. Number two, you are here in, you got win place and then you got show. You placed second today. You were runner-up to number one. Can you tell us what the race felt like emotionally for you as you saw the laddering stages of the race appear?
Emotionally, it was a great day. Wonderful time today. Towards the end of the race, I was real happy to be back in second after having some problems at the start, and after all the problems I've had thus far this season, it was real good to finally finish one and be back towards the top, and hopefully one of these days I'll be ahead of Carlton.
Was there any point in the race where you felt like I may not do it, but then again it just fell into your hands?
There was a couple times where I was hoping that something would come through, but it didn't, and Carlton's car held together and I just couldn't catch him.
All right. Well, thank you, number two. We're going to go on to number three. Mr. Irving Cole, you're here back up in the show position today for 1/8 scale. I haven't seen you drive a 1/8 scale in ever. Can you tell us what that experience was like for you today?
I think by far it's the funnest class. It is definitely the funnest class. It's a little pricey, that's why you don't see a lot of people into it, but if they drove it, it's by far the best class to me. I enjoy it. I had fun, but qualifying was real fun. I qualified well, just didn't do well in the mains, but
okay.
You gotta, to qualify, you can't just do a hot line, you gotta do a hot song.
What do you think happened in the beginning where you say you qualified well, so that must have mean you meant that you were up in the front of the pack in the start of the race. How did you get shuffled back to where you had to come through the pack and finally capture a third place finish?
Well, just a couple bonehead mistakes, you know, and just got outclassed by some veterans, that's all. By a veteran, just got outclassed.
Right,
you know? I'm still thinking we're running like a qualifying, we're running like a main. I'm trying to pull it instead of taking my time and doing what I'm supposed to do, and got outclassed.
Okay, let's go back to number one.
Okay.
And number one, you've been out here racing for a while, and you've been putting the screws to the younger guys. How does it feel to be, you know, at this junction in your life where you're up in age, you've been doing it for a while now, and all of a sudden, here you go, you're capturing the number one title, which is a very difficult title because there are so many competitive drivers that meet for this race. How do you feel about that?
Well, I think RC car racing is probably one of the evenest playing field sports available because it takes a lot of hand-eye coordination. These young guys, they get out here and they're racing and they drive from one point to another point. Old heads like me, we pretend that there's a windshield in front of us and we drive our cars as if we were in an actual car. And that's the fun of the hobby, to be able to at least experience your fantasy, if you have one, in terms of driving a car, setting up a car, enjoying the fellowship of other racers. You know, the youngsters can come up and win. I can learn from them just as much as they can learn from me.
Well, thank you for a eloquent interview, number one. Would you like to state your name for the camera, or say hi to some of your friends, your folks at home, or whatever?
Sure. My name is Carlton Coleman. I've been doing this for quite a while and enjoying everybody's company.